In the beginning, there was light until she vanished. The sun disappeared. The world fell into silence. Crops withered. Shadows grew. But this wasn't just a myth about the end of daylight. It was a story of pride, of pain, of a goddess who hid herself away, and the gods who begged her to return. Who was she? Why did she leave? And what did it take to bring back the light? Tonight we step into one of the oldest and most haunting stories in Japanese mythology, the tale of Amaterasu, the sun goddess who closed the sky. And what lies behind the stone door may reveal more than just legend. Long before the world had form, before mountains rose and rivers carved their paths, there was chaos, and from that chaos the gods of Japan emerged. Among them was Izanagi, the father of creation. When his wife Izanami died giving birth to the god of fire, Izanagi descended into the underworld to retrieve her. But what he saw in the land of the dead broke him. He fled, horrified. To cleanse himself, he bathed in a sacred river, and as the water washed over his face, light was born. From his left eye, Amaterasu emerged, radiant, brilliant, the goddess of the sun. From his right eye came Tsukuyomi, the moon, and from his nose, Susanoo, the storm. 3 siblings, 3 forces of nature, but Amaterasu was the first, the brightest. The one who would come to rule the heavens. She was given dominion over the sky, over warmth, over growth and life. Her name, Amaterasu Omikami, means the great goddess who shines in the heavens. In her hands, she held more than sunlight. She held order, balance, the rhythm of seasons. But even the brightest light can be cast into shadow. And the story of how she vanished begins with the storm. Susanoo was wild from the start. He was the storm god, loud, unpredictable, and untamed. While Amaterasu brought light and order, Susanoo carried chaos in his wake. After being banished from the heavens for his reckless behavior, he claimed he wanted to say farewell to his sister. But when he arrived at her palace in the sky, what followed was not peace, but destruction. He rampaged across the sacred fields, tore down the rice paddies, smashed the halls of heaven, and then, in a moment of cruelty, he threw the bloody carcass of a horse into Amaterasu's sacred weaving room. The maidens who served her died in terror. The room was stained, the silence afterward deafening. Amaterasu, devastated and humiliated, fled. She turned away from the heavens, away from the world, and hid inside a cave of stone and silence, Amano Iwato, the heavenly rock cave. And as she sealed herself within it, light disappeared from the sky. The sun had vanished. The world turned cold and dark, crops withered, spirits grew restless, the balance of nature broke, and all of heaven mourned. But the gods could not survive without her. So they gathered, they whispered, and together they plotted to bring back the sun. The gods stood before the cave, powerless. They tried prayers, they tried offerings, but Amaterasu would not come out. The world remained in shadow, and so the gods turned to something unexpected. Not force, not anger, but joy. They called upon Ameno Uzume, the goddess of mirth and dawn. She stood before the sealed cave, and in the cold, silent dark she danced, not a solemn ritual, but wild, raucous movement. She stomped, she laughed, she flung off her clothes. The gods roared with laughter. For the first time in ages, the heavens echoed not with fear, but with joy. And inside the cave, Amaterasu heard it, the sound of celebration, of life continuing without her. Curious, wary, she opened the stone door just a crack, and there, facing her, was a mirror. A radiant reflection. She saw herself, not the goddess who had been betrayed, but the one who lit the sky. In that moment, the gods moved. They pulled her from the cave, rolled the stone shut behind her, and with her return, sunlight poured across the world once more. The earth breathed again, but the womb aimed. With Amaterasu's return, balance was restored. The rice grew, the winds calmed, the world, once frozen in mourning, began to move again. But her disappearance had left more than just darkness. It left a scar, a memory etched into the heart of Japan. To honor her, the gods passed down rituals. To remember her, the people built shrines, and at the center of it all stood the most sacred site in the country, Ise Grand Shrine. Hidden deep within the forests of Mie Prefecture, this shrine has no nails, no cameras, no fanfare. Every 20 years it is torn down and rebuilt exactly as before. A cycle of renewal, a sacred rhythm echoing Amaterasu's return. And at its heart is a mirror, not just a relic, a symbol. Yata no Kagami, the 8-hand mirror, the very one used to lure her from the cave. It is now one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, along with a sword and a jewel. Together, they crown the Japanese emperor, not just as ruler, but as a living descendant of the sun goddess herself. In this mirror, Amaterasu still lives. In every sunrise, every rice harvest, every ritual of renewal. She is not just a goddess of light, she is the heart of a nation. Most people know the story. The sun disappeared, the gods danced, the light returned, but buried beneath that tale are deeper truths, stranger, older, almost forgotten. Some versions hint that Amaterasu never wanted to be the sun, that the role was forced upon her, that her withdrawal wasn't just grief, but rebellion. Other tellings speak of Susanoo not as a villain, but as a necessary storm, a force that shakes the heavens to reveal what's hidden beneath. In ancient poetry, Amaterasu's cave is not just a physical place, it's the human soul under pressure. It's every time we withdraw after betrayal, every time we close ourselves off, waiting for someone to remind us who we are. And her return? Not a triumph over fear, but a choice, a decision to step back into the world, to be seen again. Across cultures, there are echoes of her story. Persephone in the underworld, Inanna descending into shadow, Demeter refusing to let the earth bloom. But Amaterasu is different. She wasn't taken, she left. And that choice of retreat and return still echoes through myth, through ritual, through us. Amaterasu's legend is more than a myth about light. It's a story about presence and absence, about knowing your worth, then watching the world crumble when it forgets. She wasn't a warrior. She didn't wield a sword. She didn't strike down her enemies. She simply walked away. And in doing so, she forced the world to remember her value. It's a power rarely seen in myth, not conquest, not revenge, but silence, withdrawal, reflection. And when she finally returned, it wasn't because she was forced or shamed or broken. She came back because she saw herself, in that mirror, in the laughter of the gods, in the truth of who she was before the wound. That choice to return, not out of duty but from recognition, is what makes her story timeless. She is the sun, yes, but also the cave. She is the mirror and the one reflected in it. Her myth speaks to everyone who has ever hidden away, waiting not to be rescued, but to remember their own light. So much of mythology is filled with battles, with heroes who conquer, with gods who punish, with endings carved in fire and fury. But Amaterasu's story lingers in a quieter space. It's about the courage to step back and the strength it takes to return. In her silence, we see the cost of being unseen. In her light, we see the power of recognition. She is not remembered for war or wrath, but for reminding the world that even gods can be hurt, and even gods can heal. Her mirror still rests in the heart of Japan, not as a weapon, but as a reflection of who we were, who we are, and who we choose to be when the darkness ends. Because sometimes the most sacred kind of light